One man has since been arrested in connection with the abuse. This Congolese national is expected to be back in court next Monday, while police remain on the hunt for 7 more suspects. Well, let's talk about the trauma that's triggered by an event like this, how you live with it, how you can even potentially overcome it. And Dr Saths Cooper, a renowned clinical psychologist and freedom fighter in South Africa, joins us now. Saths, good morning, and thank you very much for your time. Listening to the man's story, and as a channel, we'll provide to our viewers the full interview a little bit later on. But what we know is that there has been severe trauma. It's a year on in that interview that he has with our reporters, Aniko Mhlaba there, and is still talking about not being able to go to sleep, needing alcohol to soothe him and to allow him to survive daily. I'd love to hear from your perspective just the impact of trauma, which is both physical and psychological, and how it has the ability to continue to affect someone long after the actual incident itself. Good morning and welcome, by the way.
Thank you. I think that if left unattended, and he relies on what he is relying on currently, it's going to embed itself, these symptoms. These are symptoms that we know arise from severe post-traumatic stress incidents. And in this case, he has experienced it himself. It happened to him, and it happened to those that he was with. So he witnessed it and was a victim, direct victim of it. The human organism responds very differently to trauma, but we do know that what he is saying, the inability to sleep, probably very distressing recollection of the events that won't go away, exaggerated startle response, or anything that reminds him of the traumatic period he suffered at the hands of these hoodlums and torturers, is going to put him on extreme edge. He's going to have flashbacks. He's going to experience these as if they were happening all over again. When you take substances like alcohol and other drugs to numb the pain, the result is that you won't have the ability to overcome it, because you need a clearer mind, such as is possible after trauma, to be able to deal with it. And therefore, the individual responses will vary. His lack of ability to sleep, if it wasn't there before, all of these ought not to have been there before the incident. So these are some of the things, Iman, that we would look at. And then we'd look at the strengths of the individual. We would look at how he has coped thus far and map with him a plan to overcome these going forward. Yeah. It's not an instant cure. You're not going to pop a pill and it's going to change, because he and his friends experienced extraordinary brutality, and it will take the skill of a seasoned health professional to help them overcome what they've experienced.
And I want to focus on that futuristic scenario around how you create coping mechanisms, how you build a framework of response and resilience in yourself, especially, through both a group and an individual experience like this. I want to go back to what you were talking about what happens when you experience something happening to yourself and you're also witnessing it at the same time. The impairment that then sets in through trauma, both in your physical brain and your physical body, and then what happens in terms of, that psychosis or what embeds itself psychologically. As you've said, it seems without treatment, I'm not sure if he had his physical wounds tended to, went to a doctor, let alone seeking, clinical support, that without that support, how dangerous this can actually be. And there might be shame and stigma attached to even going out and seeking help. There could be financial constraints as well. We know that there are limitations in the public space. So talk to us about what happens in the body and the brain when you engage trauma.
Well, let me start off by saying the Psychological Society of South Africa has offered to help these unfortunate victims of brutality, and they can simply just call us, and the numbers are in online. But what happens is there's a sense of immense shame as well, because what happened to these men, the kinds of incidents which I'm pretty certain a lot of your viewers have seen, is so profoundly disturbing as well as injurious. Physically and psychologically, there's a massive sense of symptoms that will accompany such a grievous set of impacts on their body. Psychologically, they'll be seriously dented right now. Listening to the bits I got, he is at his lowest. He's obviously depressed, you'd expect that. But he's also attempting to come to terms with some of this, and he's not going to be able to do it alone. He needs help. And speaking to the reporter, the journalist in question, was one method of expiation, if you like, letting go of some of these things, explaining. In the explanation, there is some cathartic influence that's brought to bear. Now, you need somebody who can deal with those symptoms and attempt to reset, if you like, what has been embedded in his consciousness, in his physical responses as well. He may be, there may be other things that are likely to happen. He needs a proper physical examination, and he needs, and his other fellow victims need a thorough makeup in order to help them overcome this. And you can overcome it. The memory is not going to go away. Thankfully, in some respects, there's also lack of ability to extract certain parts of the trauma. So with those handful of youngsters who were being traumatized, one may remember a particular thing and another may not remember that at all. And it's, in a sense, it's a saving grace, because you don't want all that to crowd you at the same time. In due course, you will be able to retrieve that memory, but a good clinician won't do it immediately. Will deal with the symptoms, put them at bay, help you cope with it in your daily life so that you can go out, so that you don't feel the whole world is watching you. Because I'm pretty certain hundreds of thousands of persons have viewed this. They saw their faces and so on. So you can imagine the deep-seated insecurity and the disability created by us viewing it. Us even talking about it in this fashion will add in some way to a lack of conclusion and resolution on some of these issues.